Hey everybody, it's Cheryl Lawson. Hope you're having a wonderful Monday. I wanted to title this podcast The Dog Days of Summer because that seems like a really interesting trend around here this year. Those of you who remember last summer, we were in the midst of rescuing strays that showed up at our doorstep, and of course now we have kept 2 of the 3 that showed up, and they're a part of our family, and I'll talk a little bit about how that's going later. But you also probably know, if you've listened to me or followed me on Twitter or Facebook or anywhere, that my dog tweets, Precious the dog. She tweets at I'm a Jack Russell, and pretty popular, more popular than my personal accounts, either one of them, and so I wanted to talk a little bit about that and how we're using the social media. And when I say we, I mean me and the dog. How I'm using, that sounds weird, how I'm using the content created from having an account for Precious and all of her fans and community to help us win a contest to get my children's book, The Adventures of Precious the Dog, on the shelf at Walmart or at walmart.com. I'm not really sure how the competition prizes go. I think it's to be able to get on walmart.com, but there might even be some interest in Walmart stores. But anyway, I digress. So back in, I think, 2008 or 2009, when Twitter was on my radar, I got an email from a political candidate that said, hey, join me on Twitter. I did, and that was about it. I went on Twitter, and at the time, the question on Twitter wasn't what's happening. I think at the time it was, what are you doing? And like many of you, I'm sure, I was in front of my computer. And I couldn't imagine at the time how this could be interesting or compelling to anybody else, or at least what I was doing. And until I got a smartphone, and I really figured out that Twitter was best when you were actually doing something and participating in life, whether it was at a business conference or whether it was just taking the dog out for a walk. So, yeah, I'm sitting in front of my computer. 2 hours later, I'm sitting in front of my computer. So you can see that getting out and participating and being mobile is where Twitter really sparked, at least for me, is where Twitter sparked that little light bulb. So I got a smartphone, the first Android phone, the G1 from T-Mobile, and I was tweeting as Party Aficionado. I started using Party Aficionado as my social media persona because I thought, hey, this is verbiage from the event specialist, Cheryl Lawson, who is an aficionado of all things social and social marketing. And so that's kind of how the Party Aficionado thing started. And at the time I was using a logo as my avatar and really, really not doing the things that I would recommend people do today. But I was also doing something else that I thought, this might not be interesting for my listeners or readers or followers on Twitter. Is I was tweeting things. One, I was tweeting event-related things. I'd go to an event and I'd tweet information, or I'd tweet about event tips and those kind of things. And I would also start tweeting as we were going on our walks every day, Precious and I, oh, it's a beautiful day, it's great outside. Every now and again I'd throw in a picture of the dog, and I thought, people really don't necessarily want to hear me every day in Southern California tweet about the sun is shining, right? And how beautiful the day is. So I thought about it, and I started the Twitter account for Precious. At the time, I had written a children's book. really based on this really cute interaction that Precious had with a lizard. And only after my mom had made the comment, that dog ought to write a book. We were traveling back and forth from Oklahoma to California when my dad was ill. And so when she had this experience, I thought I could hear the voices. And I always tell people the good kind of voices in my head, but any voices in your head are probably weird to some. So I started the Twitter account, and at the time it said, "Hi, my name is Precious. I'm 5 years old. Jack Russell. I wrote a book. Look for us soon." And so there's where I went on with "It's a beautiful day. Here's pictures of the dog. Here's pictures of the mountains and the hills and the deserts and all of the wonderful things that we were experiencing while living in Southern California." And what's interesting is the more I began to share, the more that I was required to share, right? I felt like now I have to do things with the dog to create content around what she's doing, because now with 500 followers, 1,000 followers, 1,200 followers, people who were in the animal space and, in that social space of pet community were expecting things to come from the I'm a Jack Russell Twitter account. And I will say to you that once you start, it's really difficult to not keep going. Once you get people interested in whatever the voice is that you're going to share on social media, you're going to now have to continue it. And one of the things that I always tell the story is one of her Twitter followers said, "Hey, Precious, when's your book coming out?" And then that sparked a whole new idea. Let's go ahead and get this book thing going. And I went through the process of finding out what it took to publish a book and self-publish it. I even looked at some of the publishing companies and decided to do it myself and use kind of the resources that I had. And I brought the Twitter community of I'm a Jack Russell on the journey of writing, of getting the book illustrated, of finding a printer, of figuring out where to post it, how to get it copywritten, where to sell it, whether Amazon or Etsy, and I have my own opinions on which one is better, but it really was something that I wasn't familiar with, but that I found bringing along the community was not only therapeutic in a way to kind of, hey, I'm struggling trying to find this, or this seems really expensive. Well, how is this okay? To really having a sounding board. I would send photos or samples of the illustrations to my Twitter followers, and they would give feedback and say, "Oh no, that's not right." Or, the one thing I always tell people is, in normal situations, you can give an illustrator, tell an illustrator, "Hey, I need a picture, an illustration of a Jack Russell," excuse me. And they can go to Google, find out what a Jack Russell looks like, create an illustrated image of a Jack Russell, and send it back. And I'm sure for most people who are graphic designers and illustrators, it'd be perfect. The only problem is people actually knew what this particular Jack Russell looked like, knew where her spots were, knew what side her face was. So it was interesting because her followers really wanted to participate in the experience. So now this is back, several years ago. We participated, Precious and I, in the Bark World social media conference for pets for a couple of years. I did register this year, but I will not be there this week. So sorry, guys. And so I spoke about the process of doing the book. The second year, we actually launched the second book at Bark World, and really still stayed a part of that community. And I still feel a big part of the Bark World community. As I'm a Jack Russell, I participate in the weekly chats or the fundraisers. I think I've just in the past couple of weeks donated to a couple of animal charities as well. So it really became an outlet for me to enjoy that side of my life without having to confuse my professional party aficionado, social media Tulsa, whatever thing I was doing with the pet community and that side of the audience that I enjoy being a part of. I don't necessarily recommend that you if you're going to do social media and you have different interests, that you separate them. That's not what I'm saying. But I do think one thing I remember Becky McCrae saying, kind of, the narrower your focus, the larger your audience, or something very similar to that. Because now I can only talk about pet related stuff on her account, and I can also throw in some social media stuff because I've spoken and Precious has gone with me, and we've talked about social media for the pet related community. So there's kind of that still same topics that I would talk about, but focusing on a different interest that I have. As you can appreciate, with the smartphone generation and cameras, I have tons and tons of photos of Precious doing various things. We go to the pet store, Precious gets photos because now I have to tweet them out or share them on Facebook or now on Google Plus. Yes, Precious has a Google Plus page, which I really like. I'm a big fan of Google Plus, and if you're not on it, I strongly suggest that at the very least you go there, set up a profile, just what you're about, because of course Google Plus is going to have a lot of search engine optimization, because Google loves Google, right? It just makes common sense. And on YouTube. And so I would shoot short videos. And those things have really helped me tell the story of Precious, of the Strays in the Hood, for people who remember the pit bull rescue that we started last summer. And so now when Walmart sends this competition that says, hey, here's a contest for you to get your product on the shelf. Now, last year we entered in the Get on the Shelf competition or contest, and I really didn't put a whole lot of effort into creating the trailer, right? Because you had to submit a video about your product and then get people to vote on it. So it's kind of a social media popularity competition where you're kind of begging for votes, and I have feelings on that both ways, but so I didn't really put a whole lot of effort in it. I used an existing video I thought was pretty clever. It was the video where Precious is having to potograph some books. It was an experiment. I wanted to see if we could figure out how Precious could actually sign books with her paw print, and I tried the non-toxic ink and getting it to a point where she could put her paw in it and then step on the book and so it wouldn't smear, and a whole lot of stuff. And while we did find a solution, Precious hated the experience, so that was kind of the done deal. But I will tell you a little bit of a secret. We did get really one great paw print, and it is on a page in book number 2, The Adventures of Precious the Dog, Precious and the Rabbits Run and Hop. So you'll see her actual footprint on one of the pages in the second book. So there's a little sneak peek. So anyway, so this year, of course I didn't win last year, but this year when it came around, I thought, you know what, this would be a great thing to do. I haven't really focused on the books. I don't particularly like schlepping books or trying to sell them. I do like finding strategic partners like Natural Balance and Bark World, where the audience might fit the product, or the audience is something that would benefit from a partnership. So I don't really like to sell the books individually. One, it costs a little bit too much to keep inventory. And two, it's very time consuming to try to focus on. But it's one of those things that I like having. I like being able to give the books away to libraries and kids or whatever, whenever I have an opportunity. But this was a good shot to, hey, if this is a big company, huge Walmart, this might be a great way to get the books into a broader market, and something that I could get help with in the marketing and distribution, so I'm not trying to do it all myself on top of everything else I'm doing. So I went ahead and entered again this year. I used one of our social media Tulsa members, Wild Woman Media, to help me produce a video. So I still used content that I already had, images and illustrations of the book, images of Precious doing her thing, and some great photography from another one of our social media Tulsa members, Tiffany from Captured Charm. So I had all this content, and I guess that's what I'm getting around to in all this blabber. I have all this content, professional photos, casual photos, photos of this dog, video clips of the dog, all of the imagery of the book, a huge Twitter following now, some over 4,600 followers, I think I'm a Jack Russell has. And so I decided to, hey, let's make a bigger effort here. So I recorded a voiceover just from my computer, sent it over to Wild Woman Media. She did a really great mashup with the images and my voiceover, telling the story of the book and what I wanted people to do. And then I also added a charitable element to it. The Tulsa Humane Society is one of the organizations here locally that I volunteer for. I do their Twitter account at Tulsa Pets, and every now and again Facebook. But they do a really good job with Facebook because they're there and they can take pictures and on site. And then what I try to do is repurpose the content for Twitter and try to get the Twitter audience engaged in the things that they're doing on site. And then the other one is Spay Oklahoma, the organization to kind of help spay and neuter just the overwhelming population of pets here in Oklahoma, and specifically here in Tulsa. We used them last year on the 3 pit bulls that we rescued. And, great organization, overwhelming need, and they just do so much. So I thought, what, if we get the books purchased or anywhere available through Walmart or Walmart.com, this would be a great opportunity to donate a portion of whatever they buy, or however we can position the books to help the 2 favorite charities that have actually done some stuff for me, and I've done some stuff for them, and it means something to the community. So it was one of those, hey, this is a no-brainer. I'll enter the competition again, and this time if I win, let's help some other animals and in the process. And so it was a natural progression for the things that I've been allowed to get involved in because of the I'm a Jack Russell Twitter account. Really is where it all began, and with Precious the dog and the books. So again, like I said, it is a popularity contest. It's how many people tweet and vote every day. You can vote on the website daily through Facebook this year, which I think they should have done a text to vote too. But I'm sure that the results from the last year's contest show that most people were voting through Facebook, and it also allows them to do a really simple Facebook Connect. Probably would have liked to have a Twitter voting option, but and then of course how many people really are viewing the video and participating online. And the good thing for Walmart is it gets people talking about Walmart, and it gets people using the hashtag Get on the Shelf, and posting to their Facebook pages and remembering, trying to mention Walmart in a good way, right? Because, there's some people who don't necessarily think positively about Walmart. So this is an opportunity to, have positive content on the web about your company. I have gotten one person who said, hey, I want to support the pet community and the charities, but I won't support Walmart. And to the, as many of people who have seen it and I've posted about it, there's only been one. So hopefully people will refrain from their feelings, because there's no malice intent in what we're doing. So instead of using just, hey, the tweet button on the get on the shelf page, which a lot of people are doing because they don't have a lot of Twitter followers, they don't have a big community. They're just kind of hitting the share button and hoping for the best and kind of flooding the hashtag. And what I've tried to do is use the content that I've created over the past several years about the books, about Precious, doing whatever Precious is doing. We've got birthday videos, but we also have a lot of content that takes you kind of behind the book and shares the story of how the book came about and how the popularity came. So I did a couple series called Behind the Book. The first one was The Big Tree, and for those of you who've been following Precious for a long time know that when we are in Southern California, we go to a park and there's this humongous tree that Precious has taken tons of photos in front of, because the juxtaposition is so amazing, that this little bitty dog and this humongous tree. And I'm not the only one that calls it the big tree. Everybody that we meet at the park calls it the big tree. And so I showed via Twitter pictures of the tree, and then showed the image of the tree and how it showed up in the book. I also did a Behind the Book series about the actual park and how the park ended up in the book. So here's pictures of Precious in the park, real life. Now here's Precious. Here's how the park showed up in the book. The other one was the Miata, my car. So actually shows up in the book. So I showed Precious in the car and hanging out of the car, and these are images that just were already on my Dropbox or in my Google Drive account. So it wasn't like I had to go out now and start trying to create content around the dog. She's 10 now, so we have tons of photos of Precious. So that was the Behind the Book series. And then last week, I got a call from one of the local news stations to come out and talk about the competition or the contest. I don't know why I keep calling it. It is a competition though, right? So to talk about it and to talk about the charities and why I've chosen to do that. And of course, I gave the same story that I've told you earlier. One, there's just the two charities I think are doing great, and there's tons of them here though that are doing great for animals. So these are just the two that I particularly like and have a personal either relationship or experience with. So, and that was fun. We went out on Friday and did that, and it was great. We, told the story, how the book came about, how the competition, pretty much what I've told you here. Not as long, of course, but I really, really enjoyed doing that. So I think it's going to run either today or tomorrow. So make sure you follow I'm a Jack Russell on Twitter or on Facebook, or you can find Precious Lawson on Google Plus, and I'll post the interview. And Precious is actually in the interview. I had to ask them if they wanted me to hold her during the shot, and because most people are more interested in the dog than they are in me telling the story. So it was really kind of fun to have her as my talking point prop, if you will. So that was Friday morning, and we had a great time. Precious, anytime Precious can get in the car and go somewhere, that's a good thing for her. And so I was able to kind of tweet about that and share. And then that same afternoon, one of our strays, who is now not a stray anymore, she's our darling Nala, had a vet appointment. And we'd been kind of dealing with an issue with Nala for a few weeks. She'd been limping and favoring one of her legs and really difficult getting up. But once she got up, she was able to have some mobility. And we got tons of x-rays, and one set of x-rays, and they thought it was an elbow dysplasia, and then sent us to a specialist who I'll have to write a review on Google, who was just horrible. They didn't even look at the previous x-rays, but they wanted to charge an additional $500 or $600 to do a CAT scan to see what else they could find. And in more research, I found another vet who had a series of x-rays. It was a affordable pet care here in Tulsa that had an x-ray series for $75. They'll do as many x-rays as possible to find out what the cause is. So that was what we did Friday afternoon after Precious's time. We had Nala time. And good news was they didn't think it was elbow dysplasia. Bad news, it looks like some sort of infection in the leg. And that was really devastating to me, not because it was costly, and it is, but because, one more thing that this dog has to deal with. And just as she's getting used to living a good life and being a spoiled dog, just like Precious, we have to go through this. So to help with the cost and the diagnosis and the surgery for Nala, I started a fundraiser online and just kind of asking the community to help with the expenses, because I probably already spent, I don't know, $200-300. Well, not 2 or 3, probably $300 or $400 just trying to find out what was causing her to limp and not get better, because they'd put her on antibiotics and painkillers and it just had not changed. So I did that over the weekend, and I just decided, okay, you know what, I'm going to focus on trying to get help for Nala, and seeing if we can get the community to just help us out a little bit. Now, getting on the shelf at Walmart will help tremendously with all of our pet care and our needs. And that's the other thing is, we rescued 3 dogs and we kept 2 of the 3. So now we have a total of 3 dogs. And it is not easy. And I think the need for organizations like the Humane Society and Spay Oklahoma is just so overwhelming. I'm struggling with the 2 big dogs. Well, Precious is no problem. Although she's had her time with vets, and for those of you who are following her on Twitter, know Precious was probably in the vet more times than most dogs, because she was either getting stuck with something or getting something stuck in her ear, or one time she got bit by a dog and the owner did not say anything and that got infected. So, having dogs and caring for dogs is not a cheap proposition. So organizations who do it for strays and animals and try to help them find homes, and the people who give them homes, really need support. So I did the donation thing from a site called Give Forward, and basically it's another kind of crowdsourcing website. And the reason I found out about them was I had seen a tweet earlier in the week, actually, from somebody who was having issues with a dog that needed back surgery and was raising, I think it was $5,000, and they used Give Forward as their platform, and I really liked it. I noticed, they're very upfront with what the costs are, what the fees are, and how they pass those along either to people who are giving or they charge each transaction. So I was really comfortable with the how it worked. There's also widgets that you can add to your website if you are wanting to add them to either your blog or to a WordPress site. It's pretty easy, HTML copy and paste code. And I just looked at I'mAJackRussell.com. You can take a look at it on the side there. And somebody has just donated $25, so that's great. Now, our need is not anywhere near $5,000. It's only $890, but that's still beyond what we can afford right now. But hopefully we'll get a few people to give and help Nala to get better and feel better. She's currently on an antibiotic for something else, but there was an antibiotic piece in the estimate, and you can actually see that her x-ray and the estimate from the vet and how much they're thinking it's going to cost for her to get better on I'mAJackRussell.com. So please head over there and share that, if you will, and share that post. So there's two ways you can help us this summer in the dog days of summer. One, you can vote for Precious and our children's book to get on the shelf at Walmart. And hopefully, if by watching how I'm doing the social media to try to get on the shelf and to not just be a regular old, hey, vote